Welcome back to another YouTube video, and today I'm joined with Julian, and we're going to be talking about things to look out for that will negatively impact your website. So, for example, like prior to us actually start hitting the record button, I actually spoke to Julian and I said we probably spent about £1 million, so like 1.4 million or 1.2 million dollars on content and links that we actually never ended up using at all. So first of all, Julian, how you doing?
I'm doing great, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for jumping on. But have you had any massive impacts like that where you've potentially bought a load of links prior to even running your own SEO or your link building agency, or potentially you purchased some content and it just wasn't great?
Oh, so many. I won't name any names, but I've used many suppliers in the past for content, especially, and it's so easy to see if it's trash content, right? With a backlink, you have to vet it a bit more and dig under the surface a little bit more. But with content, you can scan through it and go, wow, this is so badly written from sentence one, from the first word.
Yeah. So what we'll do is we'll structure this and we'll try to think of four things that um, point out when it comes to vetting content, and then four things to point out when it comes to vetting backlinks as well. But what's one thing that you typically like to look at if you're still ordering content and stuff?
So for me, it's like fluff. If
Right.
there's a lot of fluff or filler, particularly if it's a human writer, with human writers, sometimes the person that's been hired to do that is incentivized to crank up the word count, not to provide something that's like a 10 out of 10 quality. And so what you end up with is long paragraphs of text that could be filtered down and help the user in a way where you could explain that in one or two sentences and get straight to the point. I find it's the same if you have a conversation with someone, like, you just want to get straight to the point, right? You
Yeah.
don't want to be
Yeah.
filler. You don't want to be sat around listening to them for 5 minutes. So just get to the point, mate.
Yeah. Definitely. It's you probably feel that way whenever you speak to me. I chat on for 10 minutes and you're like, Kaz, come on, mate, get to the point. But no, I agree. And this was one of the things that it took us quite a long time. Like it's something very easy now that we know. Don't give content writers a word count, right? But now we actually don't give our content writers any word count. Like we use a mixture of both AI and also human. But we just don't. We just ignore the word count because in some cases, even if the top five articles that all have, let's say, an average of 1,000 word count, you might actually realize that you can spit out the exact same answer in 750 or in 500 words. So definitely try to implement that in your content SOPs as well. And again, another thing as well that we started doing it in our content briefs is we actually said don't fluff out or don't pad out the content. So we started giving like a range. So this article could be between, like, let's say 750 to 1,000 words or 750 to 1,200. But we also said be as precise as possible, and also don't pad out the content just for the sake of padding out the content. So the number two thing that you should look at when it comes to vetting content is plagiarized content. And again, this is something that's like, well, of course. But we actually, we were using a big content brand. I won't mention the name. Still about today. And they actually just plagiarized. Like it was literally word for word just plagiarized. And it, in some cases, like I can understand some people like to do copycat SEO where you're grabbing the best bits from other websites, but this wasn't even copycat SEO. This was just sheer go to juliangoldie.com and just copy his content and paste it into
Yeah, if
Google
you want.
Doc. So yeah, vet your content. How do you check for plagiarized content, Julian?
Yeah, I think we used to use, it might have been Copyscape, something like
Yeah.
that. That remind, yeah, and then you can also use originality too.
Yeah, it's at the time, this was like going back to like 2020 days or 2019 days. Um, that was, it was Copyscape, and the worst thing is we were looking at the content, we're like, this is some good content, but it was like 100% duplicate from xyz.com. And yeah, it was yeah, that was a bad day, because that was a lot. I reckon that was at least £15,000 worth of content that we had got back.
Wow.
It's all plagiarized. What's your third thing when it comes to vetting content?
One thing that I like to think about is value per word. The same with YouTube videos, value per second is a good KPI to aim for, because especially with the rise of AI, if you really want to create good content, then it's got to be something outside of what just AI can generate, right? Or it's got to be very specific and help the user in some way. So, for example, if you're reading the first paragraph of an article, typically one of the mistakes I see a lot is if someone knew that before they landed on the page, then why are you writing about it? Particularly in the intro, because you're just going to lose the user, and all that hard work that you've done to rank your website and get the SEO traffic in, it's totally wasted. All that time you invested, all that money you spent hiring someone. And so value per word or value per metric, if value per second is a great KPI with YouTube, but either way, focus on that. Focus on, right, how does it help?
There is, I don't know if anybody has looked at this before. So this is something that we were actually speaking about a very long time ago, because of how difficult it is to rank in the iGaming space. We very quickly realised you need really good content. If somebody's landing on a page talking about, let's say, injury defence lawyers, right? They've searched injury defence lawyers. They've not searched what is injury defence lawyers. So why are you talking about what is injury defence lawyers? One thing that you can definitely do, and I've just pulled up your website. I'm gonna use your website as an example. So, for example, you've recently uploaded SEO Training Manchester, right? If we just copy this first, actually, let me find a beefier. We'll go with this paragraph, right? This is the Google Natural Language NLP. It's free to use. Literally, all I searched for this is Google Content NLP Reader, because I didn't remember what it was called. Have you ever used this, by the way?
No, but it looks good, actually. It looks very interesting.
Basically, this tells you any hops that you've got in your content. So what I mean by hops is like just words that Google ignores. It provides no value, right? By the way, naturally, everybody has some zero value. So, for example, it understands that Manchester is an entity. It understands that attendees is an entity, competitors, users, people. So it just understands like everything in the actual content. So like SEO training courses, it understands that is an entity, right? But for example, the in cover for this includes how to do detailed. It's just like you're not providing anything.
Yeah.
So you can always try to run your content through that. Like the actual base content that it gives out is quite a good little. If it's going to work, it's probably not. But the actual boilerplate content that they actually have there by default is pretty good, because it's very NLP rich. Let's see if we can get this to work. I'm not a robot. It's not going to work. But for example, Google would be an NLP. Mountain View would be 1600 Amphitheatre Parkway, Mountain View, because again, it's like a location. So you've got different types of entities as well. Like you've got business names, you've got addresses, you have brands, for example. So names of people. So you've got all of these different things to really NLP rich or enrich your content. So it's just one thing to bear in mind when you are writing in content. Try to get in all those NLP entities onto the page and further up the page. It definitely does help. The next or the last thing that I would probably say when it comes to vetting your content would probably be making certain that it is on brand. And I know that's probably like not many people worry about that type of stuff, but like the tonality of your content. If you're going in with like a funny tonality for your content and you're talking about divorce attorneys, for example, it's not a funny subject, right? You probably want to be a little bit more serious when you're talking about certain stuff. But on the flip side of that, there's obviously like funny tonalities. You've got serious. You've got various different types. What's your thoughts on something like that? Is that
Yeah, I
something that
guess.
you worry about, or?
Yeah, I mean, it's something you have to be careful of. Like, for example, I think the legal niche is a great one to look
Mm-hmm.
at, for example, because if you want to be taken seriously, then you have to write in a serious tone
Yeah.
most of the time. Like, if your content is written from the perspective of a stand-up comedian, but you're writing for a legal website, then the client might look at that and think, right, well, I'm not going to hire these guys. They're not going to take my case seriously, right? So, yeah, you match the tonality with the brand.
Yeah, definitely. Also, just one thing going back to the Google NLP stacking side of stuff, like the entities and stuff. This is what it actually does look like. It ended up working, but as you can see, like this boilerplate content, super enriched with NLP. So like Google Mountain View 1600, 1600 Amphitheatre Parkway. So you've got all of these different entities. So you've got like prices, you've got numbers, address, consumer good, event, location, person, organization, so on and so forth. So you can see that there's a lot less hops of grey keywords that it's just ignoring. So if you can, definitely run your content through this. Maybe it's even the first paragraph of your content and stuff. But away from the content side of stuff, what's some things that you're looking at when it comes to links? What's the first thing that you look at?
There's so many different factors, but relevance is quite important, and it doesn't necessarily have to be like the website matches the niche completely, but at least the context of the article that you're getting a backlink from has to be relevant to the context of the backlink you're getting a backlink to.
Yeah, so I think that there's a massive misconception when it comes to relevance. And people think that, for example, if I have a bingo website, I need other bingo websites to link to me, and it's definitely not the case, right? Because I had a call recently with someone, and they were very much in that mindset. And I was like, so you wouldn't want mummy blogging websites linking to you? And he said, no. And I said, well, you know your target demographic for bingo is a lot of mums and a lot of grandmums and just an older generation. And I said it just makes sense like to get that mummy blogging website linking to you. And as soon as I started explaining it to him in that way, he was like, I actually didn't think of it like that. Like I thought that, for example, juliangoldiebingo.co.uk or juliangoldiebingo.com has to link to me. And I'm like, no, because you also kind of need to tap into their audience. There's a lot of ways that you can actually work on building good, genuine relevancy. So, like, for example, a lot of people wouldn't want a finance website linking to their casino website. And it's like, well, hold on a minute. If, say, for example, NerdWallet is talking about the best credit cards, you could talk about, or you could build a page on NerdWallet, let's say, on the best credit cards or the best debit cards to gamble with. Certain cards have different payout points, and you can withdraw a lot quicker to those credit cards or to those debit cards and stuff like that. So if you're talking about certain subjects like that, and it's linking through to your casino site, then I would 100% want those links. What's your thoughts on stuff like that?
Yeah, that makes total sense. Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be niche relevant, and also if you only make it niche relevant, then the pool of backlinks that you can potentially get is just so small and narrow that it's going to make link building 10 times more time consuming, which means it's also going to be 10 times more expensive. whilst your competitors have figured out a smarter way to branch out. I mean, for example, if you look at the skyscraper technique, which is a popular method for link building, you can quite often create a piece of content that's not just in your niche, but also crosses over with another niche. Like, for example, you might be in the birds niche, but if you did something about birds music for anxiety, the amount of backlinks you could get is 10 times higher, because you can get backlinks from the birds niche, but also you can get it from the anxiety niche. And then you can attract more backlinks for a cheaper price with the same piece of content. Saves you time.
Yeah, for sure. There's also just another thing going back to the relevance, and then we'll go into point number 2. But the if you're only getting relevant links, that's also a footprint as well. Just one thing to bear in mind. Let's say you are in a niche where you can get hundreds of thousands of super relevant links, and they're all linking to you. Which, if I'm being honest, there isn't a lot of niches like that. But it's that in itself is a footprint, because again, you look at monster websites like Verge, Wikipedia. They don't just have just relevant websites linking through to them. And again, a lot of people are now doing digital PR, for example, and those guys are like, what's Forbes got to do with my finance website? Forbes talks about hundreds of different industries, so there isn't a super relevant link that you could get on Forbes. But a lot of SEOs, if you spoke to them and you asked them, do you want a link on Forbes completely for free, they'd snap your hand off. So just another thought, or another penny of thought. So the next thing that I like to take a look at when it comes to vetting links is if it's an orphan page. Like, let's say, for example, you're doing some niche edits, you're doing some link insertions and stuff like that. I know that this was a massive thing a few years ago. The websites have gotten a little bit more SEO savvy now. But if you're getting a link and it's an orphan page and it's not getting internal links from other pages on that guest post website, it's basically like a zero value link. So definitely try to vet the website, or potentially, like what we typically do when we are doing outreach is we'll incentivize the blog owner or the website owner to internally link from a few different websites. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Like, you could either ask the website owner to insert some internal links to it, and then, that would fix the problem. Otherwise, you can just run the URL through Ahrefs, and Ahrefs will tell you the inbound and outbound links to that page.
Yeah. And another thing as well, actually, I'll leave that for my second point. But have you done 2 points?
No, you've done 2 points so far.
I've done. Oh, have I? Right. Okay. What's your second point?
So, I mean, one thing to be aware of, particularly after this year, is a lot of sites have been de-indexed.
Yeah.
Like, a decent part of the internet has been de-indexed. And so, like, if you're trying to get backlinks for your site, just check whether that site is actually indexed on Google or not.
Yeah. It's a simple check as well. Literally just do site colon.
Yeah, for sure. And if Google's the index that site, then obviously it doesn't like it. Therefore, you don't want to link from it. Simple.
Yeah. A couple added tips to what you've just said. Links generally, especially, like, I'll give you guys an example. I was doing an audit, like a consultancy call with a website owner that is in the betting space, and his website's been like a monster website for many years, and he's took a little bit of a dip. Like, he's not massive, but 20% dip, and basically what we found was he had a lot of his pre-existing backlinks that he would have got, let's say 2 or 3 years ago, that have been dropped out of the index, just that specific page. And what we decided to do is just run those links for an indexing tool and get those links crawled and indexed again, and he's seen a recovery from doing that. So that's another thing. And another bonus tip that you can also do is doing tiered link building. So building backlinks to your backlinks. and that works very well as well. Is there anything else that you want to add? Any bonus steps or tips?
Yeah, even if the website is getting traffic, just be careful where that traffic is coming from.
Yeah.
Because there's so many link farms out there that are very good at doing this, and what they'll essentially do is rank for totally random keywords in like India or Pakistan, and that's where they'll get most of their traffic from. So on the surface, it looks like that site's getting a lot of traffic and that Google really likes it. But if you dig a bit deeper, you'll see how they're ranking for, does Kim Kardashian eat bananas in India?
Mate, I've seen so many websites like that, and it's like, yeah, to be fair, that is a really good point. Look at the traffic that it's coming from and what kind of keywords it's getting, because 9 times out of 10, does Kim Kardashian eats bananas, it's probably not relevant to your website, unless you've got a banana affiliate website. I mean, fill your boots.
Straight on it.
But
just filter to India and see what's ranking.
Yeah, so that has been our 8 points of vetting content and also vetting links. Thanks so much for joining me, Julian.
Thank you.
And if you guys do want a free 50-minute consultation call with myself, make sure to check the link down below or go to casualdash.com. Thanks.